Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Albers, and welcome to This Week in Anderson on the Big Ice Sports Podcast. And really excited to announce that this podcast is being sponsored by Summit Estates, Anderson Township, and Nick grad Jim Surger. His latest book, 9/11: A Time to Always Remember, is on sale now nationwide. Over 90 Americans from coast to coast are in this book, including folks from McNick, Anderson, Turpin, including us. Which was an honor for him to have us on this book.
Yes.
And it's available where books are sold or at jimsurger.com. And joining me, as always, is my co-host, Steve Ellis. And Steve, just doing that's pretty cool because, it's our first sponsorship on the podcast. Yeah. So it's really cool and awesome that Jim made us a part of the book, number one, but also thought enough to sponsor, our podcast because he really loves what we do.
Yeah, Jimmy's a good guy and so happy for him for writing these books. I mean, this is not his only book.
Right.
But this is one that's going to hit home with a lot of people.
I really, really do. And I think people are just going to absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So definitely.
And I'm so happy for him. And I don't know if you know this, but we got to mention this, that portions of the proceeds is going to go to the Tunnels to Towers organization, which speaks huge volumes about Jimmy.
Absolutely. And he had one of his books that was featured on Fox News.
Yeah.
So he's had a lot of stuff, and Jim's just a great guy, and he really supports everything we do. So, but really cool. So we want to thank Jim
for
sponsoring us. And as we said, Steve, our next guest is a guy that is a long line of those great running backs that went through Anderson High School, and I'm excited. We're excited here to talk to PJ.
Yeah, well, what I remember with PJ is how hard-nosed of a running back he was. And, if we ever get to that point where we do a podcast for the top 10 running backs,
he's got to be in there.
He's definitely in the conversation. But I remember watching him, and it took more than just one player to bring him down.
Oh, yeah.
There's no question. Yeah. That's how hard of a runner and hard-nosed guy he was.
Yeah, and it was just like, it seemed like that time it was one after another.
Yeah.
It was, Andreadis's. Yeah. Druso, Andreadis's, and then PJ, and it just kept going on and on.
Well,
and
PJ elevated it with his talent, for sure.
Absolutely. So, as we said, joining us as our guest here is PJ Schiano. And PJ, thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Love being here.
So take us back to the days growing up, what it was like growing up in Anderson, and what side did you live on?
Okay, so I grew up in Anderson off of Wolf Angle, really close to Anderson. I actually used to walk to school in middle school.
Is that right?
Yeah, so grew up in Anderson. I had an older sister, two older sisters, but my one sister graduated 4 or 5 years earlier, so she was in that grade of the 91-92 team.
Oh, okay.
Wow. The infamous 91-92 team. So kind of growing up, I was around all those guys.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And if you remember, that group was a group that was together from a really young age.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. The Joe Duns, Nate Cosman, Druso,
Bell, all those guys.
Jason Bell, all those guys. So I got a good idea of what Anderson football was from a really young age.
Yeah.
So I don't know, would you call it the north side of Beachmont?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I would go with that. At least it's not some of the states.
Because he's going crazy because
our last 12 have been some of the states.
And he thought I planned it, and I didn't.
Well, Summit's got a good showing for Anderson football.
So where did you go to elementary school?
I went to Air Elementary.
Attaboy.
Yeah, that's right. So guys I did know, I think Jason Bell actually went to Air. The Cosmans both went to Air. Okay. So like a lot of those guys, just growing up with it.
Yeah.
Knew a ton of those guys. Played with them all. I played for Forest Hills and Mount Washington football,
Okay.
As for Pee Wee football.
All right, well, let's get into that. So as you were growing up, and we know you were unbelievable at football and baseball, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. What sports did you play as you were growing up in the youth?
Just football, basketball, and baseball. I think I kind of gave up on basketball once I knew, hey, look at me, right? So, but I gave up on that one. I played at Anderson 7th and 8th grade, and then kind of gave up. Played football and baseball almost exclusively my whole life. And then once I got to high school, actually, interesting story. It's my freshman year. I go out for tryouts for baseball, and there's probably 100 kids there.
Really?
Timmy being an all-star, right? They were great. It was an incredible year. If you remember, so when I was a freshman, Timmy was probably a junior, right? So that was a team that I think lost in the regional finals that year. They were loaded. Paul Campbell comes in. He's the new coach.
Oh, yeah.
There's 100 kids there. I didn't try out really well. I don't make the team.
Oh, wow.
And at the time, they didn't have a freshman team.
Okay.
So it's either JV or varsity.
Wow.
And I'm going into this, by the way. I played for Midland. And I had just gotten off like the best season of my life. We had gone to the World Series. I was late to getting to football. Our team went so far.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
so I'm going into the season like, man, this is going to be all. I'm just hoping to be like maybe I'm a backup on varsity.
Yeah.
Maybe I make JV. I don't make it.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So I'm devastated. Go on. I naturally start running track. And during that time, it was, obviously I was under Jake's wing. So Jake pulled me in and I ran track for 2 years. And it was a great experience. We held the record for the 4x100 relay for a really, really long time. I don't know when it was broken or how many years, but for a really long time. Right. I enjoyed it so much that the next year I said, I'm going to do it again. And so I did it. Come around to my junior year, I said, I loved baseball. I always played all during the summers, played for Midland my whole life. I said, you know what, I'm going to get back into it. So I jumped right back into it and ended up becoming, first team all league, second team all city. I led the team in batting average. So fast forward to the awards kind of night, and Paul Campbell, the coach at the time, goes, he starts kind of his story on the awards, and he goes, well, the award for the, highest batting average goes to PJ, and I cut him.
As honest as Paul could be.
And at the time, I was just like, yeah, it's been a crazy ride, but I mean, that was kind of a really weird story, but something I can kind of tell my kids, like, hey, this is the sort of thing that can happen to you, and you can have a comeback.
Kind of like the Michael Jordan
right here. Yeah,
on a much smaller level. But I always loved baseball, so I stuck with it, did it again my senior year. Actually got hurt my senior year colliding with somebody in the outfield, but muscled through it and ended up having a great career.
That's a great story.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I got here. Your junior year, you batted .449.
Yeah. The highest average on the team.
Holy cow! And with your first year back,
correct.
Had you continued to play for Midland?
Still played in the summers. Yeah.
You did. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was just took 2 years off and picked up a bat and started hitting.
Honestly, it was just one of those things. Like I tell my kids all the time, like, if you show up and there's 100 kids at tryouts, you better do something really good. I mean, you better either have the strongest arm or the strongest bat or something. It's hard to really show your speed, because obviously speed's my biggest asset. And, I can't really do that.
PJ, I'm going to tell you something, though, that I had a great tryout my sophomore year, and I was the worst. I made it, and I was the worst player on the team. Right, Steve? Steve?
Bragging.
No, I'm being dead serious. Yeah. I had a great tryout, and I was the worst player on our team.
The coach saw something.
I did not get a hit.
Yeah.
The coach saw something in you.
No, but that's true. I mean, if you do, that's unbelievable. I mean, but obviously, too, great athlete, I mean, that's an incredible story.
So when you were a freshman, Camo, obviously, as you're saying, was the varsity coach, and then he was your coach junior and senior year.
Correct. Yeah. My senior year was his last year.
Okay. Oh, was that right?
Yeah.
So name some of the other guys that played baseball with you.
Well, I mean, from my grade, Alex Miller.
Yeah.
Actually, Adam Norwell. We got him to play baseball.
I remember that.
So funny story about that is, Adam obviously stud athlete, another Summit guy, and we needed extra guys on our summer team, and my dad kind of helped coach, and he's like, well, what about Adam Norwell? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I think he's played baseball before. We get him. He plays in the summer. He's awesome. He does great. Pitches for us. We ended up talking him into coming out for Anderson. He ends up coming out, playing for Anderson, did a great job.
That's hilarious.
So him, I'm trying to think of the other, Larry Elward. He was another great baseball player. And then the year before that, we were loaded my junior year. It's like Mike Murphy, Chris Moran.
Was that Kyle Cochran or was Zero?
Yeah, Kyle Cochran. God, I should never have left him out. Kyle and I played together since we were, 8 or 9 years old on Midland, and Kyle was an absolute stud.
Age.
Yeah, Kyle Cochran was my age. He was an amazing player.
Okay, all right, so that makes sense. So now this is all coming full circle for me because my first year of coaching basketball at Anderson, I guess, was your freshman year.
Okay. That would have been the first year I actually didn't play.
I'm thinking, oh my God, did I cut him?
No.
So, because, on that team, because you said Alex Miller, I'm like, I remember coaching him and Joseph Foskey and some of those other guys, Nadam and Kyle.
Yep.
And those guys, okay.
I mean, you guys had a good run of baseball there from, like you said, with my brother's junior year all the way up through to yours. I mean, you had a good run.
I think we won the league every year.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I think we won the league every year, my freshman year through my senior year.
And you guys made some. I remember Timmy's junior and senior year. They made a pretty good run in the tournament.
They did. They made a huge run in the tournament, and I think they lost to X. And like I said, the regional finals, and then I think X lost in the state championship.
No kidding.
I mean, they were loaded.
Wow.
Anderson was loaded in baseball for several years.
Yeah. Paul Campbell was a hell of a coach.
I loved playing for Paul. Like still this day, like I coach baseball, and I still kind of can joke around with like some of the things he said.
Did you have Ayers too?
Yeah.
Ray Ayers. He's another good one. I mean, two good guys right there that you're getting to coach.
Barry Martin.
Yeah, I mean that's.
So
you had some great coaches there, and I remember Timmy that, it's always talked about Ayers and also Campbell, but you and Timmy both. I mean, all you guys had Campbell. You had, for track you had Wolf, and then Soriano. I mean, that's incredible.
All of those guys I have tremendous respect for, and obviously everybody knows that and everybody says that, but. I've played for a lot of coaches in a lot of different sports, and those guys are top of everything.
And Anderson had them. It's amazing.
No question about it.
Yeah.
So let's get into the playing days at Anderson. He's, you obviously played for the legendary coach Soriano. I mean, everybody's kind of talked about it, but talk a little bit about what it was like playing for him and just, some of the games you guys were involved in.
So I could talk about Coach Schiano for hours, and I think most people can. Is there another person you can think of that's had more of an impact on young man's life than Vince Schiano?
No, I can't think of many.
I can't think of a single person in this world.
Well, not just individually, but culture and changing just the whole entire school.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if it was up to me, there'd be a statue of him outside of the stadium. I mean, that's how much I think of Coach Schiano. So, my experience with him is so Michael was my age. Okay. So we went to Air together.
Okay.
And so I was exposed to it a little bit, but I didn't really see a whole lot of Coach until 7th and 8th grade, and, starting to be around him around the school. And I mean, what can you say about a guy who, as I've gotten older, I've even appreciated him even more from, I've coached football. I've coached, baseball a lot. And the thing that you can say about Coach Schiano is he was a motivator.
Yeah.
I mean, he motivated and got the best out of everybody, whether he's the first string player, whether he was the third string player, whatever it was. He was as good of a motivator as he was a coach. And I've really appreciated that more and more over the years to think, I kind of always felt like I was that kind of player that had a lot of heart. Had a lot of intensity. I didn't care how big you were, how fast you were. I'm going to run you over, or I'm going to hit you, whatever it is.
Yeah.
He had that same intensity, and I just fed off of it. As a young man, I just fed off of everything he gave me. All the signs that are up in the locker room, all the signs that are everywhere. Every piece of literature he handed me, I would hang up in my room.
Right.
Yeah.
And I fed on that, and that as a young man and a developing brain, that changes you.
Absolutely.
I mean, and that sort of, I don't know if enough people talk about that as far as how he developed kids just mentally. And that intensity.
Impactful.
And that intensity is just incredible.
It really is. And PJ, we do that show with Coach Soriano. Now he comes up to the lounge and he'll talk about the games coming. Basically, he's a commentator for it. And he'll come up and talk. And people are fired up in there. Like, he's like, if we do this and they do that, and everybody's like, can just like it was back in the day. I mean, he's still that way.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I still see him. And he came to my wedding, and I was a little nervous beforehand. I'm like, Coach, I might need a pregame speech backstage. You know what I mean? Like, we're in the church. I might need you to get back here and give us a rah-rah speech or whatever. Because, I mean, if you were ever in that room, those pregame speeches are gold. I don't care. I mean, I've played in college. I played for coaches in colleges who've won Super Bowls. Okay, I played for 3 coaches who have won Super Bowls, and one who has won 2 Super Bowls. Intense people, not as good of motivators as Vince Sirianno.
That's incredible.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
It makes me mad that I've missed him by a couple years. I'm serious because that's he came.
Yeah,
we both graduated
86,
and then Stowe was there one more year. I came back after 1 year of college and coached with Sirianno his first year, and we just missed him.
Yeah,
and it pisses me off that we missed him, you know?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I didn't play football, but being around and listening to you and everybody that talks about Vince, you know, and the motivation, unbelievable. I remember this first few years and even the 91, 92 team, and I'm thinking, okay, he's gone. He's going to go somewhere bigger. Yep. You know, he's going to go on to college, or he's going to, you know, and you know, we're going to be like, oh, I wish we would have kept him.
Right.
And how lucky were we to have him
absolutely
for as long as we did.
Yeah, I don't know the whole story behind all that because there's always that speculation that coach is going to OU, coach is going to Miami. And, you know, but luckily for me, we always had Michael on our side too, and I knew he wanted to coach him.
Sure.
So I always felt pretty good about that. But yeah, I mean, no doubt about it. I mean, that guy could have coached anywhere.
Sure.
So, I mean, we could talk about Coach Sirianno all day long. I mean, they could tell stories all day long about him. And,
Legend.
Yeah, I'll tell you one quick story right off the top of my head is I used to say, you know, I'd kind of question a call here or there and be like, man, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Well, that stopped one time. And it was my senior year, we were playing St. X. And we had just put in a new offense where we're in the shotgun, right?
Okay.
The L. Anderson offense runs a freaking shotgun.
Yeah.
So what we did is we ran kind of a split back shotgun where, you know, our quarterback would roll out and the running backs would protect for him, whatever. We'd start launching the ball, kind of a hurry up offense. Well, we're going into half and we're actually up and there's 30 seconds left. We have no timeouts. Clock's ticking. It gets down to 15. We get in the huddle, and Ryan Collar, who's our quarterback, who, by the way, I played in college with too.
Oh, yeah.
So he calls an off-tackle running play. And the clock's ticking down. It's 15 seconds. And I think I literally blurted out, what the hell is Coach Sirianno doing? We have 60 yards to go. There's 15 seconds. We have no timeouts. Get an off-tackle run. I run it in for a touchdown. I score. Time runs out. I go in the locker room. I go, I guess I'm never questioning him.
Oh, my God. Because they were already playing a zone type of defense.
I mean, it was
expecting the pass.
Yeah. And I mean, we ran
it. Oh my God!
Ran it for probably 60, 70 yards with 15 seconds left.
Were you laughing by the time you got to the end zone?
Literally, yeah. I mean, literally, when he calls the play, I literally in the huddle go, "Is he out of his mind?" And I'm thinking, throw the ball, get out of bounds.
Yeah.
And he calls it, and then I score, and I 100% was laughing.
Oh my gosh,
that is great.
Yeah.
So let's get into real quick some of your stats. Pretty impressive. Junior year, 1,234 yards, 15 touchdowns, 1,600 all-purpose yards. First team all QCC. How about the QCC?
Yeah.
Old school.
Second team all region.
Yep.
Unbelievable junior year. Senior year, 1,150 yards rushing, 17 touchdowns, 1,500 all-purpose yards. First team all QC, first team all city, second team all region, and QCC offensive player of the year.
Impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very impressive there.
Yep.
Yeah, and honestly, probably out of all of those, the QCC offensive player of the year was the thing that, I don't know, was really humbling. When I was just shocked. Right. And I still remember Coach Sirianno telling me that at, the senior last lap, and I was like, wow. It was just a huge honor. And, that was probably the best out of all of them.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, that just right there shows how great of an athlete you were, and I mean that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was awesome. I love you said I love hearing that, especially now that I'm 43 years old, right? So it's kind of that's pretty cool.
And again, a lot of things too. A lot of guys also too is you have to have other good teammates around you to make that happen. Yeah. So obviously your offensive line, the coaches, everything that you had, there's no way you would have been able to do those things if it wasn't for them.
100%. 100%. I mean, you would look down our line on any given year, and I mean, it would be. I mean, it's still like this today. Yeah. Anderson's lines are massive. Yeah. And you go 2 or 3 deep, and you have guys who are juniors who aren't even starting and end up playing in college.
So
I mean, there's a huge tradition there. So yeah, that makes it easy.
Yeah, definitely does. So let me get into your senior year real quick, and then I'll throw it over to Steve. Is that your senior year? You finished 9-2, and you played Elder at Nippert.
Yep.
And I remember that in that game you gave Elder all they can handle. We were talking before we went on air. I think you said it was 7-0 at halftime, which was kind of surprising because I didn't think it would be that low to begin with.
Right.
And I could be wrong. I don't know. It was like 28-21. 35-21, something like that. But it was a game that every time that Elder would throw a punch, you guys would answer back, and I think you had a pretty good game too, I believe, didn't you?
Yeah. It was actually one of my better games, and a game actually I used for film to send out to colleges a lot.
Yeah.
Just because the competition was so good. So Elder was one of the top 5 teams in state. Back then, only 4 teams got in, right? So we were the 4th seed. They were the number 1 seed in the region. If you're the number 1 seed in Division I football in the Southwest Ohio region, you're pretty legit.
Yeah. You have an advantage.
So and actually, not too far after that, I got to know some Elder guys and a lot of them who played football, and they actually were like, we didn't take you guys seriously at all. Like, they were blown out of the water that we were as good as we were. And they were just super complimentary. They're like, yeah, we just had this GCL swagger.
Yeah.
Didn't even think you guys would even be able to play with us. And we come out right away and just punch them in the mouth. And, that was an awesome game. Just back and forth. And like
didn't you bust one out for like,
yeah,
it was a long run. 60, was it something like that? Or?
Yeah. So coming in the second, I think it was like kind of, the game was tilting a little bit more towards their way. We get up, we run our traditional, I don't know if you guys know the name of the play, the 57 counter, right? So it's the great Anderson tailback play where you line up in the wing, come back around, right? And I busted. It was a long run. I'm going to say longer than 60.
Was it? Okay.
I'm going to say 70 or 80 yards, and that got it to be like a 3-point game. Yeah, and that was a huge turning point. And then, like I said, we were kind of playing from behind, so we started throwing the ball more, had a couple turnovers, and then they had an crazy passing attack. Their starting receiver went to Vanderbilt. I forget his name, Steve Stricker maybe.
Sounds familiar.
And their quarterback ended up being Ohio Player of the Year.
Yeah.
So they were tossing the ball around, but again, we got a ton of respect. I think I ended the game probably with somewhere between 150 to 200 yards, let's say. And so, but because that competition was so good, right away, send that film out.
Yeah.
And that was one of the main games I sent out.
Wow.
You know what's funny is that you said that thing about how playing Elder. Kurt said the same thing. Remember when Kurt Shoemaker played that year? It was 21-7. It was the same thing. And he said he knew a lot of Elder guys because he went to UC. They said the same thing. Hey, we really did not. We underestimated you guys, and you guys were. And it's happened a couple times with Anderson teams.
Yeah. So PJ, a question: when you were playing there, did you ever watch any of the games that were on the cable access with Danny and Greg?
Screaming and yelling.
Every single one of them,
Okay, I figured. All right, so my question to you is, so I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you had a run against, I think it was Oak Hills, that was like 99 yards.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to need that tape because I can imagine.
I probably lost my shit.
Probably lost his ever-loving mind. Him and Greg screaming.
I wonder if I yelled, Pete, when I did, go PJ, go PJ.
Yeah. So I love that too, because we'd go home and I'd be able to watch those before we would watch film the next day. Yeah, that is true. I'd love to know the answer to that, but
I was always nervous about him.
It was was it at Oak Hills?
No, that was my junior year, so that was at home. And then my senior year we played at, actually for some reason, I don't know why, but 2 of my really good games were actually against Oak Hills.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Against the West Side.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know.
Sorry, so you got through your senior year and then you went on to play baseball, obviously, too. But talk about how the recruiting process, and you talked a little bit about sending some film out, but the recruiting process and where you ended up.
Yeah, so recruiting process, I have no idea what it's like today, but back then the coaches would be calling you, they'd be coming over for dinner. Obviously, you'd get mail. I had, big garbage pails full of letters from everybody. Wow. And actually, I wish I still had them because some of them, I had one from, God, what's his name? Nick Saban.
Really?
No kidding.
Like a signed, like handwritten letter. Because I think at the time he was at Michigan State.
I was going to ask you, where was he?
Michigan State. But I'm sure there was others, but that's just one that comes to mind. And I've told my kids, I'm like, damn, I wish I still had that stuff.
Yeah,
man.
But lots of phone calls, lots of unofficial visits. And then you go, so you start with the unofficial visits, obviously during the season, and then once the season was over, back then we didn't have those early signing periods.
Okay.
So what you would do is during the season you'd actually go on lots of unofficial visits to one of their games.
Yeah.
Be on the sidelines. They'd kind of wine and dine you, and then once the season was over, that's when you take your official visits. So a lot of my unofficial visits were to MAC schools. I was dead set on going to a MAC school.
Okay.
And at the time, I was being heavily recruited by Toledo and Ball State. Well, the reason I love that, they were both the best two teams in the MAC at the time. The other thing is Toledo, you guys may or may not remember this, in the late 90s, they loved short running backs. They were one of the only ones because of that vintage. Running backs weren't big.
Okay.
There was no such thing as a third down back, right?
Okay.
If there was such thing as a third down back, I mean, me, Lou, and Jake, our career paths would be completely different in college. I mean, we would have been the ultimate third down back, right? So I went to Toledo twice, went to Ball State once. Those two, I was actually on the field, and those two played in the MAC championship.
Oh, wow.
I was really close to both of them. They called me all the time, and both of them basically said the same thing. At the end of the day, we're really close. We really want to offer you, but, there's this other kid, he's a little bigger, and we've offered him. We're not sure what's going to happen. We'll keep you in the loop. Both of them came back, said, the kid ahead of you accepted. We want to offer you a preferred walk-on. What else are you doing? And I basically said, look, I'm going to get a scholarship. I have other places I'm going. So, both of them were super cool and said, well, you got us for a preferred walk-on if you want to do it. I knew in my mind,
Right.
I never wanted to do that because I always felt like it would give me an out to quit.
Right.
I've seen other guys do it, and I knew, like, that's a hard situation. Now, in today's day and age, I don't know what it's like, but so long story short, so then I took like official visits to Butler, Dayton, Indiana State, and then Holy Cross, where I ultimately ended up going. And then interesting side story on both of those, Lou Andreas took me around Butler. And then Joe Dunn was my my person at Indiana State. When it came to and Dayton, I had just kind of ruled out pretty quickly. Didn't have a great feel for that. And, nothing against Lou. I didn't really care for Butler a whole lot. So it kind of came down to Indiana State and Holy Cross. So went to Indiana State, and I'm sure it goes this way. Went to Indiana State one weekend. The next week I went to Holy Cross. Mm-hmm. Before I left Holy Cross, I looked at my parents and said, this is where I'm going. I absolutely love it.
Okay.
I loved it. It was the coaching staff. So first of all, at the time, the head coach, Dan Allen, was a Cincinnati guy. He grew up in Cincinnati, went to Purcell, played for some of those big-time teams back in the 70s. Started recruiting Cincinnati heavily. I mean, my freshman class probably had 5 kids from Cincinnati.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and this is, 14 hours away outside of Boston. So I immediately fell in love with the campus and fell in love with the coaching staff. The coaching staff just felt like family. It wasn't a business.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So I did do an unofficial to UC, and everybody knows about UC staff at the time. It was Harbaugh was their running backs coach.
Oh, wow.
So Harbaugh was the guy who was talking to me. Mike Tomlin was there.
I forgot about that.
And Rex Ryan was the defensive coordinator. And you go there, and I was just kind of pissed when I left. Because first of all, there was no personalization. They were just all screaming and yelling the whole time, just real intense. Okay? I go to these, when I go to Holy Cross, it's like, I felt literally like, they would talk to you about life. They would talk to you about other things. And it wasn't all football.
Okay.
Certainly football was a major part of it, but big difference in how they treated you.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's a great story, though.
That is great. And I was just going to ask you about some of those coaches that you were talking about.
Yeah. So at Holy Cross, and this kind of makes sense for, at the time it's a 1AA school, whatever they call it now, FCS. So my thought is this. You always have to start somewhere, right? So when you're coaching, whether it's high school or Division III or a smaller school, well, I got lucky where I had a couple really good coaches who kind of went up through the ranks. And one of the coaches who I was really close with, David Phipp, ended up being our special teams coordinator and defensive back coach. And he's gone on. He was with the Dolphins for a while. He was won a Super Bowl with the Eagles.
Wow.
And then my defensive coordinator, Tom Quinn, was a defensive coordinator for the Giants through both of their Super Bowl wins.
Wow.
Yeah.
And both these guys kind of came and went and stepped up through the college ranks. There's a bunch of others too. That they're still doing it. And then my best friend who I played with is a strength coach for the Dolphins currently.
No way.
He's been there for
That is cool.
He's been there for 15 years. Yeah. So yeah, I've been around a lot of these guys who
That's incredible.
who've made it to that next level, and they're certainly as intense as Vince Soriano. The intensity is there, and that's probably why I latched on to those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, my one coach, who's my special teams coach. So when I was in college, I played a lot of different positions, but when this guy came on, he was kind of like the Vince Soriano, like a young Vince Soriano, and we just meshed.
Yeah.
And this guy got me to play my heart out on special teams, and it just became kind of like my thing. Like
Okay.
I was that kind of like guy who would do certain things on special teams that you just wouldn't see. Like I would, I'd catch balls on the 1 yard line, from being a gunner on the punt team, and it just totally flipped the field. And I just bought in because this guy was just crazy, and I loved it. I loved the intensity.
That's awesome.
So, it was a great experience.
I do remember seeing some video, and it was a game that was on television that you either caught one on something. I just remember distinctly, and I don't remember what was that. It was like, didn't you catch one on the side? Something like
I caught I don't know. I got really good at being a gunner and just beating the guys with speed, and knowing that there's a ton of space here, right? Okay, so when you're playing receiver, you only have so much space to get on top of the DB and then make your route, right? Well, when you're a gunner on that, you have the whole field to work with.
Okay.
Right? So you just take a super hard release inside or out and just beat the guys with speed.
Yeah.
And I do it all the time. And I mean, eventually I got double teamed, and I would still beat them because I just take such a hard angle that they couldn't do it. And so, I caught a lot of them. But all of our games...
Was that on a fake punt, or what was it? What was it? It was...
I don't know which one you're referring to, but there was definitely...
There was one on TV. It was on TV.
Yeah.
And it was a broadcast game, and I remember that they said your name, and you went down the sidelines. And
okay, so that... You're probably thinking one... I know people have posted that on Facebook before, and that was just a regular run.
That's what it was.
I don't think.
I just remember.
I was just used to my speed.
Yeah, so I mean, there was a lot of regional stuff that would be on ESPN2, and we had our own local television state in New England football or whatever.
Yeah.
But there is one where I catch a quick 5 yard out and run that. It's probably one of the only clips that are really even out there.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So I mean, just real quick, the Holy Cross, the whole experience. I mean, some of the teams you played against, playing in the Ivy League. I mean, I'm sure that was just a great experience. To go around to some of those historical stadiums as well.
Ivy League schools are really cool to visit.
Yeah.
And so every year we played our league, which is the Patriot League, which is Fordham, Lafayette, Lehigh, Bucknell. I'm probably forgetting
Brown.
a few. Brown's in the Ivy.
Oh,
so Holy Cross is in the Patriot League.
Yep, that's right.
But we would play our league, which was kind of smaller, only 5 or 6 teams, and then the rest of our schedule would be Ivy League.
Right.
So we'd always play Harvard because naturally we were kind of rivals. They were 20, 30 miles away.
Okay.
Then for some reason we always played Yale, and then the other two we would just kind of switch every year. So I literally played every Ivy League school.
Wow.
Oh, that's cool.
So I got to see all those schools.
Yeah.
And played against 2 former Anderson guys. So Jeff McKay played at Dartmouth.
I forgot about that.
So we played against each other 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
Greg Kerval went to Harvard, so I played against him. And then there would just be some random local guys.
Totally
that
forgot about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And in the Ivy League, believe it or not, I mean, there's some guys that could play.
Yeah.
I mean, there was Ryan Fitzpatrick. He was a freshman, I think, when I was a junior or so.
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
So there's still some good talent there. And then there was actually a time where Towson, I think they were called Towson State, but Towson was in our league. I think they're like an A10 team now. So they were in our league. And what was crazy about that is there are probably 15,000 kids that go to that school, and we're here like 3,000 kids, right? We actually went there once, and the best year that they had, they were a top 25 team. We were probably just outside of it, and I didn't know this until years later, but I had a terrible game, an absolute terrible game, and I didn't know till years later. The reason why I had a terrible game is I was going up against Madu Williams. Okay, Madu Williams, who was the Bengals safety for years.
Yep.
That guy cheated bad. So I could not get, I mean, literally, so I played in the slot. Most of my career I played inside receiver there. So we ran kind of like Anderson's current office, four wide. I was the inside guy, just look, get me the ball quick, run a bubble screen, run an inside screen, run a quick out, run a quick slant. That guy never let me off the ball. I mean, just hold me down by my jersey every time.
Really?
So a lot of, I thought, pretty good competition. Now, fast forward to these days, now these guys play like BC and Syracuse, and they get their big money games.
That's exactly what it is, the money games.
We didn't have that luck back then to do that, but we still played what I thought was really good competition.
That's awesome, man.
I always said it this way, like you'd always kind of see maybe 1 or 2 kids from each team go to the NFL.
Okay.
And from my team, you'd always get 1 or 2 kids every year who'd sign on as a free agent.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's probably a lot more. It's a lot more.
Sure.
Now the practice squad's huge.
Yeah.
So
PJ, for everybody that's watching this that hasn't seen or heard from you in a while, since high school, get us caught up on your family and what you do for a living.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. So most of my time spent being a dad, right?
Attaboy.
My daughter's going to be a junior this year at Turpin. I do have to say that. My son will be in 7th grade at Nagel. This year. So, on the way over here, he was actually telling me he hit somebody so hard today, knocked his helmet off, and I'm like, that's awesome.
Is he okay? That's awesome.
No, that wasn't even in my brain. I was just like, that's awesome, whatever. So, they're great. So I spend a ton of time. They're super competitive, super good athletes.
Wonder where they get that from.
No kidding.
So my son is, big time baseball player, loves baseball, loves football. My daughter, I'm gonna brag on her a little bit. Sure. My daughter's 6 foot tall.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Okay. Yeah. So you want to get that from me, right? But Sophia got heart. Okay, and which is kind of like what I've always told them. I'm like, if there's one thing I can tell you, I was fast, but I had a lot of heart and I was intense. That's like I love competition, and that's how she is. And so she's going into her 3rd year at Turpin, and she's started every year since she was a freshman.
What does she play?
Basketball.
Oh, with Dave Julio.
Coach that's
Julio.
Right. That's right. Yeah. So, and then, that's just a fraction of the season. Then she goes on in the summer and plays, really high level national competition. I mean, we spent all last month traveling, and we were in Florida for a week, just playing some of the best teams in the country, and it's just super, super cool to watch.
That's cool.
So,
enjoy it.
I know it goes quick, and I'm really enjoying it. And
so you just have the two kids?
So I just have the two. Kids. That keeps me busy, and then so it's really fun. I absolutely love doing that. I coached my son for a long time. I've kind of stepped back from that a little bit. He's getting too old. He needs somebody other than his dad.
So talk about that. We have unbelievably understanding wives that if we didn't have them, they let us do all the stuff that we do. We constantly are doing podcasts. He's doing basketball for UC Claremont. I'm doing all the football games. So talk a little bit your wife and and just about the support from her.
Well, yeah, for sure. Like, my wife loves it. I mean, so she went to McNick. We were the same age.
Okay.
Didn't really date. Maybe kind of went on a few dates in high school. She never really went for me, and I kind of just kept going for it, right? And so kind of kept touch through college, and then kind of started dating right after college, and I finally got her to say yes. And after
that's awesome,
lots of persistence. So she had brothers who played sports for McNick. She comes from an athletic family. She didn't really play a ton of sports, so to say. I mean, here and there.
Right.
Yeah.
But she knew me growing up, so she had watched me play. I had torched McNick at least twice in my life. So
that's been brought up a few times.
Yeah. So she knew of me, and so I think she knew like right away, like once these kids started becoming like 5 years old, they were going to be introduced in. I don't push anything. Yeah. My kids know, like, if you want to do this, you do it. Like, if you want my help, I'll help you. If you don't want my help, that's fine. Like, so my daughter's coming to me now saying, I kind of want to explore maybe playing in college and, this and that. And, hey, what do you think? And I've started to, help her out with that process. So I think my wife, though, to answer your question, loves it. I mean, there's nothing more we love to do than to watch our kids compete. And have that sort of intensity.
So important. So important to have that. If you don't have that, it makes it very difficult.
Well, I mean, like I said earlier on, with the whole Vince thing, I think what he taught us is life changing. I mean, life changing skills with every little silly saying he meant, every piece of discipline he taught us. Those things carry over. I mean, they all do.
Question. Yeah.
And I'm sure anybody on the team would say that.
Absolutely.
And what do you do for a living, PJ?
So I work as a business development manager for a custom injection molding company. So essentially I make plastic parts for people. So I work with, all different types of companies.
Okay.
A lot of auto companies, construction companies, whatever, company that makes different plastic parts on a commercial level.
So obviously locally here in Cincinnati.
No, actually we're based out of Columbus.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you just work?
So I work remotely and then, go in the office, as need be. But
that's nice.
So I've been doing it now for 3 years. I kind of did a big career change, and I worked in the printing industry for 15 years, did that whole thing, and then just kind of decided I wanted to do something different. And it's been awesome.
That's great.
Yeah. So work for a great company that's super supportive and, real flexible in what we do, and it's been awesome.
That's great.
I really enjoy it.
That's great. So we're going to try to wrap this up, and we probably should have warned you about this, but maybe you've seen him before. But we try to do your favorite memories. So give me your favorite memory of high school. Give me your favorite memory of college, and then maybe a favorite.
Wow.
Maybe a favorite teacher, or maybe a coaching moment, or even a coach. I mean, you kind of mentioned them. So we'll start off with a high school memory.
High school memory. I mean, it has to be football related, I think. I mean, I'm just going to do a bunch of quick ones. Okay. Right. So sophomore year, the St. X game. Yep. Okay. So Anderson versus X, probably 1 and 2. Even though I wasn't much of a player, but I played all special teams. So I was still very involved in that game. I still say I don't think I've ever seen an Anderson game that crowded.
Was that Timmy's?
Yeah,
Timmy's senior year. It was.
It was the most crowded I've ever seen it.
Totally agree.
It was.
Totally agree.
As far as I'm concerned, the biggest game I've ever been to. Even the 1 versus 2 game in 91 or 92 when Anderson played X. Obviously I was nowhere even near that. I was probably in 7th and 8th grade. But that game, my sophomore year, was incredible. And the level of talent on the field was disgusting.
Yeah, it was. It was unbelievable.
And in fact, one of the starters for St. X's defense, Barrett Doxey, I played with in college.
Oh, wow.
So we both had talked about that. That game was insane. It was a great game. So anyway, so that's one of them. The Elder game we've already talked about. That was a huge game. But my number one is probably going to surprise you. The Harrison game my senior year. Do you know why?
Was that the overtime game? No.
Okay, so now I'm going to take you back.
I remember.
Okay, here's the reason why. My junior year was one of the worst years in that time frame, meaning we were like
5-5,
6-4, 7, whatever it was.
Right. Okay.
we were a great team. The problem is we played Troy, second game of the year, lost in overtime. We missed 3 extra points. Okay, we should have won that game. Troy, when we made that contract with Troy, they were one of the best top 5 teams in state. I mean, they were incredible. So we lost that. So right away at that time, you're like, well, shit, if I lose one game, I'm not in the playoffs.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was tough. Fast forward to, I don't know who we played after that, but we won a couple games. We played Harrison at home. We're up by, I don't know, 10 points or whatever. They kick an onside kick. They get it.
I remember this.
Okay.
I think I know which one you're...
No time left on the clock. Drop back for a pass. We sack them. Luke Cosman sacks them. We sprint onto the field. We're going nuts. Game over. The running back literally picks up the ball and just chucks it in the air. Everybody's on the field at this point. It's almost like, what's that famous college game, the Cal Berkeley
the Stanford game.
It's just like that. He throws in the air. Some kid just catches it in the end zone. They call it a touchdown.
I remember that. I do remember that.
It was actually, if I'm remembering correctly, I believe they showed a clip of it on ESPN that year. Yeah, it was just a crazy ending. Okay, so now our season feels like it's broke. So long story short, we go to the end of that off season. You know, in the back of our shirts always said the tradition continues, right?
Yeah.
We're 8 up. You know, this is the first time we actually ended up tying for the league championship that year. Okay, so we held on to that because, you know, we won the league every year. T-shirts come in. Coach Schiano goes, it's a no-brainer. What's the back of your shirt say? Get it back. Get it back. That was our slogan. Okay. Now I don't know if you've ever heard this story. So we're going to my senior year. That game is a huge target for us, the Harrison game. So we knew it was total bullshit that we lost that game. It totally wrecked our season. We always thought Harrison was below us too. You know, I mean, honestly, like we don't lose to Harrison, even though they were a decent team. We play at Harrison my senior year. I've never, ever been jacked up for a game like this. Coach Schiano comes into the meeting room. Typically before you get on the bus, you get in the meeting room. He turns on the TV, pushes play, plays the last play of that game.
Oh my gosh.
Doesn't say a word. Everybody watches the play. He goes, get on the bus. Get on the bus. Crickets. From Anderson to Harrison. We come out there, and I'm not kidding when I tell you, there was a few runs where I ran harder than I ever had, and I hit kids harder than I'd ever, as hard as I could possibly throw at somebody. And when that game was over, I mean,
that's awesome.
That's
an awesome story.
Wow.
So for me, believe it or not, that was probably the funnest game of all time.
I mean, it does. It's unbelievable. And then what about college?
College. So when I went to Holy Cross, they were in a rebuilding mode. It was a new coach. They'd only won 1 or 2 games every year. We had a great class, and we were like the next big thing. So finally, by my senior year, fast forward, we're tied for first place like the whole season, and we knew if we get in first place, you get an automatic bid to the playoffs. We came down and we played Lehigh, who at the time was just loaded. I mean, they were a top 10 team in the country. They had everybody, and we basically came down to the last play. We ended up losing, but probably one of my favorite games of all time, just because we were basically 1 yard away from winning the league and going to the playoffs.
Wow.
So,
jeez.
There was a lot of big games like that. We also lost to Harvard 3 years straight, and then my senior year finally beat them. So that definitely comes to mind.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So but nothing like that Harrison game. Nothing like that.
Well, I think you've already talked about your coaches already.
Teacher?
Give me maybe a favorite teacher.
I mean, that's easy. I mean, everybody knows Mrs. Coleman and Mrs. Russo. I mean, I aided for both Mrs. Russo and Mrs. Coleman for years, and even though Mrs. Russo was I think a 7th grade teacher, I mean, hands down, they were great. Cinco, obviously, if it's Cinco, I love Cinco. But I mean, Mrs. Coleman and Mrs. Russo were like, my school mothers. And
I love Coleman. She was our mother.
Yeah, she was our
during school when we were there.
Yeah. She was our.
She was a cheerleading coach.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Never knew that.
Yeah. How about
so we
that?
had Coleman, we had Cinco, we had some of the ones that you still had. So that's pretty.
Awesome.
We really appreciate taking time. I know you're busy with the kids and everything going on and getting ready to ramp up for the school year. So we really appreciate you taking the time to join us.
I love it. I love it. Anytime I can talk about Anderson football, man. I mean, my kid goes to Turpin, but man, I still go to lots of Anderson games.
So he's going to be. So what's that going to be like?
I don't know. At first, honestly, when she first, got her first start at Turpin, I was like, I don't care what unless you're an All-American, I'm not going to wear a Turpin shirt. And since that, I've softened up. She started to get. She started playing it on me a little bit. So it was difficult. I'm not going to lie, it was difficult. Sure. I mean, it was really difficult. But at the end of the day, I do have some Turpin gear, and I wear a game. She's an awesome kid, and she works really hard. It's fun.
Awesome. If I'm out at a game, because I'll support Dave Julio.
Yep.
And if I come and I see you, I'm going to snap a picture, and it's going on the alumni site. That's all I got to say.
Don't do
say,
that.
look at this, PJ.
Don't do that.
I'm kidding, right?
Because I'll be at plenty of Anderson games.
I'm kidding. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. And again, as we said, we thank you, and then we also got to thank again our sponsor for today's game, Summit Estates, Anderson Township, and Nick Red. Jimmy Serger, his latest book, 9/11, A Time to Always Remember, is on sale now nationwide.
Go get it.
Over 90 Americans from coast to coast are in the book, including folks from McNick, Turpin, Anderson, including us.
Yep.
And so also these are available at any of the bookstores and also on jimserger.com. So again, guys, check that out. It'll be coming out shortly. I know Jim's going to have a big signing. Hopefully you guys can go support him as he supports us. So want to thank him. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. So for Steve Ellis, Dan Albers, and PJ Schiano, you've been watching This Week in Anderson. We'll catch you next week.